Hi, my name is Jezebel Sweet. 8 years ago, I was Angel Jackie in Corey Feldman's touring band. In 2017, I did two national tours as part of Corey's Angels, and I also lived with Corey Feldman, his wife, and his girlfriend for about 7 months. During the entire time that I was involved with Corey's Angels, there was a documentary being filmed, which has finally been released. It's called Corey Feldman versus the World. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it in its entirety. I believe as of right now, it is available on YouTube as well as Apple TV. The film captures my entire journey from start to finish, but it really only scratches the surface of my own personal experience. So I'm going to do a deep dive into my own story as well as my extensive knowledge of Corey Feldman lore. I'm going to be giving some commentary on parts of the film, as well as answering some of your questions if you have any. So let's get into it. So I'm going to jump ahead to my first appearance in the film. They actually flew me out to Los Angeles for the world premiere of this, and it was a hard watch, to say the least. There was a lot of memories that came back for me, a lot of emotions that it brought up right out of the gate, literally. Um, After I left Corey's Angels, I read the book Down the Rabbit Hole by Holly Madison, which is Hugh Hefner's ex-wife recounting her time in the Playboy Mansion, which is a gated residence like this. Uh, she talks about how she felt like the gate wasn't so much to keep people out as it was to keep the women in. And I related to that so much. Actually related to a lot of that book. It's a really, really good read. So as soon as I saw the gate in the film, I'm thinking about all the times that I had to jump it because it could only be operated from inside the house or with Corey's personal clicker. So the girls would sometimes help each other kind of sneak in and out so we could leave the house without dealing with any backlash from Corey. So I actually had to scale this thing a few times to get out or to get back in. Also, this wasn't some mansion. It was actually kind of filthy with dog feces and urine from their poorly cared for animals. But I digress.
Is that right? Babe, I just feel like it's so junky down here now. And I also
Mm,
wish it had the,
mm,
proper spikes to it. How's it look on camera?
Here I
Check it out.
am,
Kind of pretty.
house angel.
Yay, you look gorgeous.
Jackie, do me a favor.
They had my makeup professionally done for this. Like my face is like a different color than the rest of my body. This was the photo shoot for our first tour promotion.
No, other way. Other way. That's right.
This moment is very me. I am a walking wardrobe malfunction. Clothes absolutely hate me. Also, I'm gonna start a GoFundMe to get myself some braces after seeing myself like this on a big screen. And I'm gonna need at least $10 million.
Sex appeal, sex appeal, sex sells. Right? Hot mama.
Right now, we're focused on our project, The Angels. We've got Brittany living in the one room, and then we've got Jackie living in the other room, and so we've got a full house again, that's for sure.
I want these to be promo shots that girls can have as 8x10s. Courtney, keyboards and DJ. Jackie, bass player.
Okay, so I guess by this point I was already the bass player. They don't show this part in the documentary, but I was actually originally hired to play rhythm guitar, and then his bassist quit about a month before the first tour because she was so embarrassed by the whole thing. I think she was one of the girls from the Today Show. I believe her name was Takeo. So Corey made this comment about how I should just learn how to play the bass, and I thought he was being serious. So I learned all the songs that we had started on the bass before the next rehearsal. And he actually got kind of mad and told me that he wasn't being serious about that. But all the girls really encouraged me and told him that they thought he should let me do it. But he still tried to audition two other girls, and they were way better at bass than me because they were bass players. But he said he didn't want to hire them because one of them was a brunette and the other one wasn't as skinny as he wanted her to be. So I did ultimately get the job. So I learned how to play bass, and I had about 30 days to learn 30 songs, but I did pull it off. He later admitted to me that he had no intention of ever actually hiring me for this tour, and he basically thought that if he could get me to move in, that I would become one of their girlfriends or like something to that effect.
Yeah. So we're all part of a team, we're all part of a family, and he, molds everyone into, who they want to become.
Absolutely not.
I was coming to LA. I had just moved out of my apartment in Miami Beach. And this girl, she's like, hey, there's this audition, there's room and board involved. I only was supposed to come out here for 4 days. And
Me and my 11 Miami shirt.
I ended up getting an audition, so I just never left. Just all fell together so perfectly, you know? I wasn't really worried about it because it just seemed like what I was supposed to be doing.
Oh, little baby Jezebel. I think I'm 23 years old here. I remember him making some dumb comment to me about, he's like, my second favorite number after 22 is 23. Um, yeah, it's funny seeing myself like this. No makeup on my face. I'll give my full backstory on how I got involved with Corey's Angels in the first place. So I had this friend in New York City that was being considered for the project, but she didn't want to relocate to LA. I was dating someone that lived in LA, and I was about to move out of my apartment in South Beach, Miami. And I kept having these recurring dreams about moving to LA, but I really didn't have a lot of money, and so I didn't know how I could possibly pull that off. I had enough to book like a 4-day trip. So I figured I'd go for a few days. I visit the guy I was seeing and just kind of check it out. And maybe I could come back later and think about moving there. I had never been to LA before. I booked a stay at an actual mansion that someone had converted into a hostel in Culver City. But I hadn't told much of anyone that I was going. So I was really surprised when my friend called me and she was like, I know this is a long shot. I know you live in Miami, but there's this guy in LA. He's looking for female musicians for a tour. There's room and board, and I just think you'd be perfect for it. And I'm thinking, like, this is so weird because I was going to LA the very next morning and she didn't know that. Uh, But he needed a guitar player, and I wasn't a particularly good guitarist. I'm still not really much of a guitar player, but back then especially, I really only knew a few chords. I figured there's no way anyone is about to hire me to go on a national tour as a guitar player. So I actually said no to the audition initially, but she was persistent. She insisted. She thought I was going to be the perfect fit for it. She told me his main priority was what the girls look like. So she said my skill level wasn't going to be an issue. That seemed concerning. But when I looked him up, I saw that he was married. So naively, I assumed I wasn't going to have to deal with him trying to sleep with me or anything weird like that. Uh, I had no idea who he was initially. I've never seen the Goonies. When I Googled him, I realized he was in Stand By Me. I think that was the only movie of his that I had seen. Um, and when I looked him up, I saw him talking a lot about God. So even though I was already going mainly by my stage name, Jezebel Sweet. I chose ultimately to use the name Jackie because I thought maybe pushing to use the name Jezebel might hinder me from getting the job due to the biblical connotations. I'm gonna show my first messages with him here though. Um, okay, so you see, I do send him my Jezebel Suite website, so he was aware that I was using that name. That becomes relevant later on. So I said, "Hey Corey, my friend said you were in need of female musicians. I'm not sure if I'm exactly what you're looking for, but she asked me to send you a message anyway. I'm flying to LA for a few days in the morning. I sing, write, play piano, and some guitar. There are some links on my website, www.jezebelsweet.com." Okay. And then he goes, "Hello there. Yes. She's been very sweet trying to help us find girls for the tour. Unfortunately, I'm out of town for the holiday with my fam. We'll be back on Tuesday. What day do you leave? P.S. Just looked at your photos and I can tell that I like your personality. You look like a free spirit, perfect for this band. Would love to meet if you will be there when we return." Him saying that he liked my personality based on my pictures. Speaking volumes there. Said, "Thanks, I'm leaving the morning of the 19th, so if you want to meet before then, let me know." And he said, "Okay, so hypothetically, if we did an audition, it was going to work out, would you be able to stay?" I said, "Yes, I'm actually moving out of my apartment in Miami Beach. My plan is basically just to travel." So let's put the next one. Um, Plan is basically just to travel, so my life is very flexible right now. And he goes, "Perfect. So I see you play keys, but I have a few questions. Do you know how to program, play synth sounds like horn pads? Can you play all styles like clav, Rhodes, etc., blues, funk, pop, and rock?" I asked because I'm not sure how familiar you are with my music, if at all, but we literally play everything from EDM to hip hop and rock and R&B and soul with lots of it. So I think he was actually maybe trying to give me Margot's job here initially, which is funny, probably because she's not blonde enough. I don't know, just a guess. So I said, "I don't know anything about programming. Definitely learn piano in a more classical style. I know how to read music, but these days I mostly sing and play. I'm not familiar with your music, bless, but I will check your stuff out when I get a chance. I love all styles." Ugh, spoke too soon there. He said, "Do you play guitar well? Can you play lead or just light rhythm?" Said, "I don't consider myself that great of a guitar player. I mostly have just learned to play chords and sing." And then, so I'd probably be better suited for rhythm at this point, but I'm generally a fast learner. He said, "Okay, well, let's plan on meeting Tuesday afternoon. In the meantime, you can send me a number so I can call you. I'll need to get you material as well for an audition." I said, "Okay, sounds great. Give him my number. Shoot me a text or something with your name so I know it's you. Hi, Corey, just got your message. You can give me a call back anytime in the next hour, later tonight. Early evening would likely work best for me, but I'm flexible and maybe available tonight as well. Just waiting to hear back from someone." Okay, so that I think was that. I think we did a phone call after that. Uh, mm, so yeah, basically, you see, I was very honest about having very little skill in what he was hiring for, but I still easily got an audition. I looked up his music while I was in the airport and I watched the Today Show performance, and I'm thinking, what the hell did I just get myself into? And then the next video that popped up was actually him talking about some spat between him and Marilyn Manson with M's ex-girlfriend Rose McGowan on Howard Stern. And I personally thought that was hilarious. And I'm thinking this dude is completely off his rocker, but it's all just too weird and funny. And I gotta follow through with that. I'm thinking there's no way I actually get hired, but I'm just gonna go audition for fun. So I went to his house in Encino and he brought me a chord chart to learn one of his songs. I think it was Take a Stand. So he leaves me alone in his living room to learn it. And maybe like 15 minutes later, he comes back and I play it for him. He tells me he's so impressed. I'm such a fast learner. I tell him about the whole crazy coincidence about the timing of the whole thing and the dreams I had been having about moving to LA. And he tells me that it's because God had sent me there. Um, but I did kind of agree. It did really feel like divine timing and so kismet. So he asked me not to take my flight out, saying I could have a room in the house and he was going to take me on tour. And he actually tried to get me to move in that night, uh, uh, that same day that I had met him. But I still felt a little uneasy about the whole situation. I told him I wanted to do it, but I wasn't really sure if it was actually a good idea. For as perfectly as everything lined up, it was obviously a lot of red flags. I also had very little money, and I was afraid of putting myself into a bad situation with not a lot of resources. And I just had the craziest gut feeling about the whole thing. Like, I felt like I was supposed to do it, but it also felt like, I don't know, like it just made sense that things like were gonna go wrong. Um, but I felt like I should just take the risk. So I told him I would come back the next day because I still had one more night booked in the place that I was staying. I do remember him being kind of offended that I didn't just like immediately agree to move in with him. And he kind of argued with me about like why would I rather stay where I was than like just stay there and hang out with him. But I was just like, oh, like I gotta go get my stuff. I have plans with someone, I got out of there. But I did come back and I moved in the next day because at that point I was so broke. My really only my other option was to take my flight out and leave. So that was that.
Going through.
Mm.
Give me faces and body movement of like.
Okay, there we go. We got you standing there, and that's great.
It's
But
so
yeah,
funny.
Pose it
let's
up, be
feel
fun
it. You
with
know what I mean?
it.
Like let's feel this next shot. And what are we hearing right now? As this classical as
You're not hearing anything because the piano is not on.
this rock? What is this? I want to feel it. I want to hear these notes and these pictures. There we go. Good.
You're having sex with your instrument. Think of it that way. No, like inviting,
Margot's
inviting,
face.
inviting. That's the thing.
I've had wardrobe concerns. I do like the idea that there was two choices because there was no way I was going to wear the two piece. For the women in this band that want to wear those outfits, go for it. You said I could choose.
So, I never had an issue with the outfits personally. I know that was like a point of contention for a lot of girls in the band. Uh, I might have worn less if they let me. It was actually kind of a synchronicity for me because wearing white was already my signature thing. Prior to this, I was on tour with someone I was dating, and the staff had actually nicknamed me White Dress because I was pretty much always wearing white. And I'm also an exotic dancer, and I almost always wear white lingerie when I work. So getting ready for our Corey's Angels shows felt really similar to getting ready to work in the strip club, which I thought was very funny. I remember him getting really mad at me once because I referred to the outfits as skanky angel costumes, but I actually meant it as a compliment.
You can choose, but I'm being your voice of like reason because you so sell yourself short. You do. I'm telling you.
They were so down bad for Margot, like always trying to get her to to wear the two-piece, like always trying to get her to like come party. I know they had like some kind of delusions that she was gonna like become one of their girlfriends or something. And I thought that was hilarious because it was just like so very obviously not happening.
I'm like, yeah, I've had 18 number one films.
Okay, like so correct me if I'm wrong, but no, he literally hasn't. I think someone actually did the breakdown on this once, and it was really funny. He's obviously been in some really successful films, but I think even some of the best known ones never actually went number one. Not to diminish his acting career because he was obviously very successful in that. I just think it actually makes it like even more weird that he feels the need to lie about things like that.
Feminine, oozing sexuality.
So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at this for my part one. There's a lot that comes later that gets much heavier, and we'll get there. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'm gonna try to answer as many as I can as I go through the film. I have a lot to say and a lot to cover, so please come back for part two, and please hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks.